All right, 3, 2, 1. Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Drewski with Cryptid Warfare and Conspiracies Podcasts and CW Operations and Survival. Hope you guys are doing good. Yeah, guys, we're going to get right to it. But before I do it, introduce the guest yet again. This thing's like the third time we've had him on, so repeating guests. I'm having repeating guests on, so it's going to be good. If you guys had any encounters, you guys want to be on the show, you guys need any prayer requests, anything like that when it comes to spiritual warfare, cryptids, UFOs, paranormal, anything like that. You guys got any knowledge when it comes to certain aspects like biblical knowledge, anything to do with exorcism, stuff like that. You guys just want to be on the show, hit me up on Instagram, Cryptid Warfare, or at on my Gmail, cryptidwarfare@gmail.com. And also, too, if you guys are having any critter problems, you guys are having anything like that when it comes to cryptids, hit me up on c.w-operation1705@gmail.com. We would love to help you out. And the business of the month, shout out to my buddy Charlie with Kingdom Defense. If you guys want to learn close quarters combat, first aid, medical, both on the military aspect, law enforcement, and the civilian aspect, hit these dudes up. They are the best in the game. And so you guys want to learn tactics, stuff like that, hit these dudes up. They can help you guys out when it comes to like your churches at your security. When it comes to security at your churches is what I meant. And when it comes to training up for civilians or anything like that, you guys want to be more deadly, hit these dudes up. So, other than that, let's get right to it, guys. I have a returning guest on the show. If you don't know him, you're living under a freaking rock. Brice, what's going on, brother?
Drew, what's going on, man? Whew.
I want to go take my daughter to Starbucks before I dropped her off. So, like, what do you want? All I want is water. And she put, stay hydrated.
This time, around the year or whatever, a lot of these girls get pumpkin spice lattes and all that, the little fancy coffees that they get at Starbucks whenever for the Christmas time.
Mm-hmm. She got a challenge, man, so I got to throw a challenge too.
Hey. Going to chow.
Yeah. Dude, let's get into this, man. So, it was during Thanksgiving break. You called me. You had a situation that happened. Let's get into it.
Yes. Okay, dude. So 2 weeks ago, now this is actually right on Wednesday. So the day that we were off for Thanksgiving shutdown, right? And I was going to my girlfriend's house. She lives down in Savannah, where Shiloh is, and one of the bloodiest battles in the Civil War in Tennessee. But I was driving, dude, minding my own thing, jamming out, listening to music, and I get on State Route 641. Okay, this is actually close to the Parsons area over in close to Watertown. I was still about maybe 30 minutes out from Savannah. Okay?
Yeah.
And it was at night. I think it was around maybe 4:30, 5 o'clock. I was driving, dude, and I could you not, I literally was looking straight ahead, and I saw this tail, ball of light the size of your fist, fly in front of my windshield, and I just see it just flying and then just disappear. I was just looking at it like staring at it the whole time, and it just disappeared to the right of me, just vanished. I was thinking it was like a shooting star, but it couldn't be a shooting star because shooting stars would move faster than what it was moving. It was staying in the air for maybe about 5-10 seconds. So I was just, what in the world? So I immediately called you afterwards because I was kind of like geeking out and stuff like, bro,
Yeah.
because dude, I was in shock, man. I don't know what it was. If it was paranormal, if it was extraterrestrial, if it was, I mean, I don't know. But then I called my girlfriend, and come to find out, I didn't realize this, but there was a church that I passed by like 5 miles down the road from before it happened, and that church had a cemetery with it as well.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Because you know how when it comes to paranormal, when there are cemeteries and churches have cemeteries and stuff, some paranormal activity can happen.
Oh yeah.
Um, depending on like how old the church is, and plus, there's a whole thing about the paranormal and stuff, like the temperature wise and what the weather is, and if it's like lightning out, it can create a bunch of energy.
Yeah.
But it was cold and it was foggy out, and that's the thing. But I don't know what spiked up that energy, but I saw that ball of light. It didn't do anything to me, luckily. But it was just the weirdest thing, man.
Yeah.
Like I've never had that happen while I was driving. I told you about that experience I had at Fort Donaldson, a while back,
Yeah.
and that was definitely a great experience there. But this one was just right in front of my face, dude.
Yeah. What's crazy? Okay, so I was kind of doing like a little bit of homework on that, and so I was kind of looking up certain type of meanings on like what orbs are, stuff like that.
Hmm.
So there's all kind of like commonalities and stuff with it. So like paranormal and spiritual, like the paranormal and spiritual interpretations of them, right? So for people in the paranormal circles, ghost hunters, ghost investigators, spiritual folklore, stuff like that, orbs are sometimes believed to be spirits or souls, angelic or demonic presences, energy manifestations, dimensional and cryptid related. Also, fallen angel or alien tech that are like drones. So, and then with the colors, meanings when it comes to the spiritual and paranormal aspect of it. So you said it was turquoise, right?
Teal, actually.
Teal, kind of like
Yeah.
my gauges.
Yes. Exactly like your gauges.
Uh,
That's the exact color of what it was.
yeah. Um,
But
yeah.
it was weird because it was teal, but it was like really light blue in the middle.
Hmm. Okay. Well, that's cool because I looked at some of the like the colors for it. So anything in like the blue spectrum when it comes to the blue colors, right?
Hmm.
It can go from turquoise to teal to blue to light blue, sky blue, all that stuff. So what that represents is like calm or some type of communication or like a wise spirit, like a spiritual guide, a spirit trying to communicate a calm, peaceful energy, sometimes linked to old souls. And what's funny is that it kind of translates towards the cemetery. But with me, I always kind of go base everything off what the Bible is. So when you're dead, you're dead. That's it. There ain't no coming back. But as far as a spiritual energy, like it could have been an angel, it could have been a demon, it could have been an angel maybe trying to slow you down. Because like when you seen it, did you like pump the brakes or something, like slow down, like whoa, or you just kept going?
I just kept driving, man.
Man, that's a trip.
I saw it. I mean, I was calm and everything, but I was like, holy crap! I saw that. Like, I was like geeking out because it's like, yes, yes.
Yeah,
But like,
that's
I
cool.
wasn't scared or anything like that. I was calm. I was cool.
And just
Nice.
boom. How fast do you
Yeah.
think it was going?
Not that fast.
How fast were you going?
Oh no, I was going to speed limit, so it was about 50, 55 on that
Oh,
road.
okay. That thing just kind of just went in front of your windshield. Whoa.
hmm Yeah, it stayed in the air for about 5 to 10 seconds and just disappeared.
Yeah, then it kind of hit the wood line. Yeah, man. Yeah, is this your first time dealing with an orb?
No, it's
How many
not.
times have you? What was that?
That's not the first time. No,
Okay, was it the second time, fifth time,
second
10th
time.
time? Huh?
It was the second time I've dealt with
Got
it.
gotcha. Yeah. So in your theory, ain't no right or wrong answer on this. What do you think it was?
I honestly think it was a spirit.
Yeah.
Honest to God, because I mean, it makes sense. A church being right there with the cemetery and stuff. I mean, it could have been somebody that recently passed. Maybe that was calm and like a nice person, whatever, and just passing by. I guess giving me comfort or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Or could have been making the rounds, who knows, man.
Yeah, and it's crazy to me. Of course, I told you my grandfather passed. Back in
Mhm.
July.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So I mean, that could have been another thing. Could have
Yeah.
been a sign of him, maybe.
Yep. Could have been a
You know,
wink. Like, hey, buddy, I see you.
yeah, maybe checking in on me.
Yeah. Well, good thing you didn't keep your eyes on it too long and drifted off or something, Yeah, 'cause
No,
I remember the first thing I thought, I was like, okay, did you have like missing time?
see, that's funny because I checked and the time was good.
Yeah.
Like time didn't slip or anything like that. I mean, I was just looking at it. Everything was fine. My car was fine. It didn't mess with anything, which was weird because I know sometimes spirits can actually do that. They can mess with like the engine or the time or the tires and stuff like that.
Yeah. I got you, man. So after that, basically you actually had like a smooth ride after that. Nothing else happened.
Yeah, nah, nothing else happened except for just that one moment. You know, and it's funny because I didn't have good service, so of course our calls kept on dropping when I was trying to call you about
Yeah,
it.
I remember that.
So I was like, great, it didn't miss with something.
Yeah, because all I heard was Andrew. Or
So you thought something was going on, but
yeah, I did too. I was like, Brice, Brice, Brice. Well, that's funny because we're driving. Actually, we're actually driving to Arkansas. And one of my daughters is like, "What's going on?" I was like, "That's my buddy Brice. He saw an orb, so he ain't getting good reception. I don't know if it's got him or what." And she was like, "What?" I'm like, "I'm just kidding. He's fine."
Andrew.
Yeah, that's a trip, man. I remember first time I ever saw an orb was me and my buddy Zuck and Will went to go check out these fire towers over there in Woodbury. And first of all, we actually weren't supposed to be there. But anyways, yeah, so in a nutshell, we were kind of hiding out in like the tree line because there were some people driving in their vehicles because they seen our lights, so they were there trying to find us. So we're kind of hiding out in the tree line. And as we're hiding out in the tree line, I heard some noise and I looked over and about 300 yards out, I thought there were flashlights, but they weren't bouncing up and down, and they were just like a smooth, like going in between trees and around trees and stuff. It was just smooth, and they stayed at the same level, and they were both white, like just white, two of them, and they were getting closer and closer and closer. And as they were getting closer, we saw them from 300 yards away, and they got up to about 50 feet away from us, and we're like, "Nah, we're dipping, we're out." So yeah, so we took off to the vehicles and yeah, we drove off. But that was the only time I've ever seen an orb. So yeah, I was pretty lucky to see two of them. But I was almost kind of like in like a trance, you know, just
Mhm.
looking at them, just thinking, contemplating. Oh man, dude, those got to be flashlights. No, because flashlights would bounce around. They're getting closer. I can't move. Yeah, let's get out of here. So
Like,
yeah, my buddies
nope.
looks like I don't want to get abducted. Let's go. And I was like, yeah, let's get out of here.
Thank God you didn't.
I know, right? All right, man. Let's keep moving on. So you're the history. You're the history king. So why don't you lay some history facts on us? What was yesterday? And I know there was a lot of significant dates going on, like for like today, yesterday, stuff like that. So let's bounce into
Yeah.
that, man.
So those of you who don't know, or those of you who do, and if you follow anything on World War II, then some of you may know about this. But yesterday, on Sunday, December 7th, 1941,
Yeah.
uh, yesterday was the anniversary of the bombing of Pearl Harbor,
Mm-hmm.
and Pearl Harbor was bombed at 7:55 a.m. By the Japanese naval and air forces. And Pearl Harbor was a major naval base to what we had in Hawaii at the time to store our Pacific Fleet in case of any kind of emergency leading up to the Pacific. Um, and the Japanese took a major blow on us, destroyed half of our battleships and aircraft carriers, destroyed two of our airfields at the same time. They launched two waves of fighter and bomber planes on our base. And at the end of it, for about 2 hours, 3 hours, um, 3,000 American sailors and lives were lost during that attack, um, which is still one of the deadliest attacks on American soil besides 9/11. But that's what spiked us getting into World War II way before Germany.
Yeah.
Um, Major victory for Japan, but huge blow for us. Today was the day where FDR said the famous speech they gave to Congress and to the nation, saying, yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. Uh, America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by the naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan, and so on and so forth. But what I want to talk about is the what ifs about it. Like, what if Pearl Harbor was never attacked?
Mm-hmm.
And what if we kept the peace treaty with Japan?
Okay.
And what if we did send our Pacific Fleet to the Atlantic in 41 to help out with the cause in England while England was being bombed by Germany in 1940, 1941? Here's the thing. We had a peace deal with Japan for 20 years, leading up to World War II. Ever since the Treaty of Versailles to end World War One. A lot of people don't know this, and a lot of you may not know this at all. But Japan was allies with us and allied nations in World War One. But they were fighting China from 1915 to 1918. So they were still helping us out while China was still in the communist regime. But what really kind of spiked the tensions between us and Japan was in the Treaty of Versailles. Us and allied nations didn't pay any attention to the Japanese uh, uh, leaders, the emperor and stuff, in the Treaty of Versailles.
Yeah.
And when we didn't, the Japanese leaders got up and they left the room, basically, and just um, they felt disgraced. They felt um, dishonored. Just were pissed. So that's what led to tensions between us and Japan
Mm.
with that.
Yeah, I was kind of
And
wondering what the freak happened.
that's what started it,
Okay.
because they were still not happy with us. Um, but another scenario is that before Japan bombed Pearl Harbor um, on December 7th, months before that, we actually took 80% of their oil supply in the Solomon and Malayan Islands in the Pacific. So we were taking their oil, and they didn't have any oil to use for their ships, or really most of their equipment, because during that time, from 1933 leading up to 1940, they were fighting Japan. They took parts of Japan, they took all the Philippines, Thailand, all the Pacific Islands. And so they already had half of the globe right there, while Germany was conquering Poland and Czechoslovakia and France and Norway and the European countries. So the world was already half, split by the Axis powers. But Japan got more pissed at us because of that reason. We took their oil supply. So that's the reason why they attacked us, is because that was the final straw, quote unquote, what they needed to strike the blow on us to destroy our Pacific Fleet, to where we won't fight the war against them. And then their goal, Japan's goal, was actually to then conquer Midway, conquer Hawaii, and then move in westward to the United States, to California, Oregon, and then they would have expanded more east, possibly hit to Chicago. But the what if is, what if that didn't happen?
So what have happened?
If Japan never attacked us,
Yeah.
we still would have been neutral. We would not have fought Japan in the war if we still would have had that peace deal with them. Okay, because that honestly would have saved a lot. And could we have been allies with Japan? It's a hard question. I don't know if we would have been. I still think we probably still would have been neutral. But
You
I
don't
think
think there would
Germany,
have been some way would have been dragged into that war?
by Germany.
Yeah, I figured, because I know one of Hitler's plans was to attack America.
Hmm.
That was the main thing he wanted to take over.
Exactly. That was one of his goals, is actually conquer America.
Hmm.
And if Japan didn't attack us first, then Germany would have actually dragged us into the war. And they would have dragged us into the war earlier than 1944.
Mm.
Okay, so we were sending supply ships over to England and in the Atlantic in 1941, while Britain was being bombed by the Luftwaffe. I don't know if you ever heard the movie Greyhound.
Hmm.
Have you? With Tom Hanks?
Yes.
So that's true. The supply ships were being attacked by the German U-boats.
Yeah.
And I think what we talked about before, the wolf pack, how
It's
the
funny.
wolf pack.
I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but I know what the movie and with Tom Hanks and stuff. With the whole Wolfpack thing.
Mhm.
I always think, anytime I hear Wolfpack now, I always think of the even though they're not a Wolfpack, they're the Cobras. But I always think of the damn movie Dodgeball, Ben Stiller.
No.
Well, they're doing that. Yeah. Anyways, stupid. Keep going. Keep going.
Oh, that's a great scene, honestly. Yeah, but those that don't know, the wolf pack of what the Germans did was it was a group of 5 U-boats that would, I mean, literally traveled in a group underwater, basically to pick their targets.
Yeah.
And they would split off, but they would actually surround, the Atlantic Fleet, and they would try to, take out the supply ships or the uh, destroyers that were guarding the supply ships and stuff. So I mean, it was a constant thing. But I feel like that would have dragged us more into the war with Germany than Japan in that scenario right there. If they kept on attacking our supply ships, or let's say if we did send our Pacific Fleet over to the Atlantic, like what Washington wanted to do, that would have been the key thing right there.
Mm-hmm.
But
so, yeah.
No, go ahead.
So, all right, since you're a big historian. So, if you have, knowing the knowledge you know now, okay, if you had a chance to take a time machine, go back and help out, like intel-wise, what timeline would you go in during that time? Who would you talk to? Maybe to try to get ahead of this.
Oh, well,
Ew.
definitely I would go back 2 days before Pearl Harbor. Honestly, I would definitely go to the president for sure and let him know. Obviously, FDR probably wouldn't believe because
Yeah.
he wasn't.
FDR,
He
this
wasn't.
guy's psycho. Put him in the brig.
I'm telling the truth. No, but obviously FDR wasn't one to believe it. At the time when Nimitz and the God, I can't think of his name. He was the one that broke the code and basically figured out what their next attack was, um, leading up to Midway. I can't think of his name, but yeah, I would definitely go back and try to warn them, like in full detail of exactly what was going to happen
Yeah.
to prevent
Well,
Pearl Harbor from happening.
what's crazy is I was watching this. I was watching like this animated history channel on YouTube. You guys go check it out. It's pretty interesting. So this guy was talking about the whole Japanese aspect of it, right? When it came to like the kamikaze guys. So these
Oof.
guys, they would actually pick them and stuff, but they would be totally like full fledged in brainwashed into the cause. Well, there was this one kamikaze pilot who actually didn't make the kamikaze, like his plane crashed in the water, and we took him. One was hostage, but we took him as prisoner, and then we sent him back, but they didn't want him. Okay. Keep. I see them. The wheels turning. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know that story because
Yeah.
I know what animated series you're talking about because I've actually watched a little bit of it too.
Yeah.
But yeah, continue. I know a lot about that story actually.
Yeah. So I just thought it was actually pretty interesting. So like when you went back, they were like, you really didn't freaking do your job. You totally like dishonored us and stuff. So I was like, man, dude, can you imagine that?
Yeah, that. And there were some kamikaze pilots that miraculously did survive.
Yeah. Right.
So there was only a handful though. I think there was maybe, if I remember the number correctly, I think there was like
Yeah.
10 that survived, or maybe a little bit more. But being a kamikaze pilot, people who don't know what that is in World War II, and they actually did this in Pearl Harbor and also in Midway. So the Japanese would take their Zero fighter planes, right? And after they would, diminish their bombs, they would actually dive into the ships as a bomb itself, and
Yeah.
they would crash right into the hull or right into the sides of the ships to try to create extensive damage.
Yeah.
And it was a brutal thing to do.
Yeah, man. And yeah. Just I don't know that yeah. Just that whole time just mentally engaged, like knowing what you're gonna do. But it's almost kind of like the same thing, for people who are like in Iraq, fighting. You have like your suicide bombers, stuff like that. It's just a different bumper sticker slapped onto it, is all it is.
Hmm.
You know. Um, but
And,
anyways, go ahead. I see you about to say something. Go ahead.
and the Japs were the first ones to do it.
What?
The suicide bomb.
Oh, yeah. True. 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 Yeah, because you're right.
Because the kamikaze pilots,
Hmm.
they were basically kind of the first ones,
Yeah.
if you look at it.
I got and what was the trip was going back to that too, because my grandfather, he actually fought in World War II, and a matter of fact, I have like his bayonet over there on my nightstand. Um, yeah, he told me he did some crazy stuff, but as soon as that happened, he got activated. He was actually in the 101st Airborne. He did that for a while, and he after everything calmed down when he came back overseas, like when he came back stateside. So he was actually stationed in Colorado for a little while, and I guess the whole time when that happened, anybody who was Oriental descent, they actually put them in concentration camps here in the U.S. And but yeah, and like he actually had like a really good friend who was Oriental, but it's actually kind of sad because they over that whole thing, like their friendship just was just done. And like he said that he couldn't trust them, he didn't know. And then him and one other guy that he was working with, they were in charge of like the prison crews basically when they got back stateside. So that was actually like their duty station. So they had to watch, I think, like 20 guys who were like Oriental descent and all that. And he said there was just a lot of like animosity, a lot of betrayal, a lot of hate and stuff like that. And he just got very, very, very paranoid around them. And even like still to like the day, um, when I was older, when he'd be telling me, like, he wouldn't tell me stories, but I knew something was up because whenever we go into like Oriental restaurants and stuff like that, he would act pretty skittish and stuff. And then my grandma had to tell me like, "Hey, here's the reason why," and stuff like that. And eventually, he actually like refused to go into certain places, like because of that, because mentally in the back of his head, he still thinks they're like spies. You know.
Yeah, yeah, it's that I remember, learning about that and talking about that in school too. Is there was I don't remember exactly how many concentration slash forced labor camps that we had here in the United States. And we did have a pretty good handful, but we had a couple in Colorado. We had a few in Nevada, a few in California, um, and this was of course a little bit after Pearl Harbor because we didn't know who was spies, who weren't. When it came to the Japanese or the Philippines, Thailand, because the Japanese had allies in the Philippines and stuff too. So, but there was a spy in Hawaii over at Pearl Harbor at the time that we didn't
Mm.
even know about that took photos of Battleship Row.
So he was doing some recon for him.
Yes,
Yeah.
and he was taking photos of Battleship Row and also aerial photos of Battleship Row and also two of the main airfields that we had.
How the hell would you take
That
aerial photos? Like if he just be just like flying over, I guess. He have to be.
well, used a tourist plane.
Yep, it's true.
So took the photos and then he mailed it back to Tokyo. Um, and this was actually about a week before Pearl Harbor was attacked. And so
Gotcha.
that's how Japan got their information and then got the photos that they needed to target the ships like the Oklahoma, the Arizona, the Tennessee, Yorktown. So that's how they were able to really do the surprise attack, is because of that scenario right there. And they even called a local dentist over there.
Hmm.
The dentist had no part of it at all. He didn't know who he was talking to or anything like that. He was just on the phone with them, and they asked him what the sky was like, what he could see out there on Pearl Harbor and stuff, and then they just hung up.
Yeah.
So that's why everybody was so skittish after Pearl Harbor because, of course, like what you're saying is, he could trust when it
Yeah,
came
exactly.
to the Japanese and the Philippines and stuff. Like you just didn't know. Hell, your neighbor could be a spy for Japan. You never knew. I mean, it was a crazy time, with that, and when it became more with Germany, when the issue with Germany started becoming a bigger part. Obviously, you can't trust anybody from Europe. More or less, you can't trust anybody in France.
Yeah, man. I don't know, man. To me, it's just like everyone's bad until they're not. Like you don't have like no idea like who to trust. Like
Hmm.
that's the thing about war is like the first casualty of war is truth, man. You know.
Yeah,
So
and that's how it's been for centuries.
yep, to me, that's how it's always going to be.
Hmm.
You always got you always got like your spies. You always got your guys who do recon. Like people
Hmm.
playing both sides. Like also too, it always leads to the money as well.
Yeah,
Money, 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 money.
because I mean, like in Germany, France, they had also you had the resistance,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you also had people who were part of the resistance,
Mm-hmm.
but more or less that they were working for the Gestapo and stuff, and they were trying to get information of the resistance, and that's why some of these resistance cells, were captured and executed and stuff
Why don't you
because of.
explain to the listeners what the Gestapo is?
So the Gestapo was Hitler's police. They were the secret police of the Nazi regime, and they would actually go around in France and in Germany. Let's say if you were either doing any kind of propaganda, resistance, or even were talking about Hitler at all, they would literally go to your house and they would force you out and they would put you in the back of the truck, drive you out in the middle of the square or to a countryside or wherever. They would either interrogate you or they would execute you for treason,
Yeah.
and that's what the Gestapo was.
Okay.
It was a secret police.
Yeah. I don't like anything secret.
Right.
Anyways, keep going, brother. Keep going.
Yeah, and Japan kind of had something similar of that. Um, not as none of not as high of like a police force of like what Hitler did, but obviously they did have groups in Japan like that would capture you, interrogate you, and obviously execute you for either being an American or just uh, trying to get information out of you, stuff of like let's say all right, let's say in Doolittle's raid, James Doolittle,
Mm-hmm.
when they bombed Tokyo
Mm-hmm.
and in 42. So they had to bail out in China, right? And some of his men were captured, and the Japs interrogating him and stuff, trying to get information about their planes, about the bombers, and obviously some of them didn't break, but and that's what a lot of the Japanese soldiers did, and they did have a police force, but could not think of what it was called. But honestly, the Japs were more brutal than what the Germans were.
Why is that? And how so?
Well, the Japs would put you in work camps like what Germany did, but you would be fed moldy rice with maggots in them. You would literally be worked to death.
Mm-hmm.
Just like in the movie Unbroken.
Oh, that's a great movie.
Oh yeah. They would put them in work camps like that. They would barely feed you, or not feed you at all. They would work you constantly for basically all day, try to brainwash you with their traditions and stuff. They would beat you constantly. But also in Germany, and you had the concentration camps, and all you had was soup and bread. They would work, or they would put you through the gas chambers and stuff. But Japan, if you looked at the officer wrong, well, I mean, they would kill you right there.
Yeah.
Either gut you down with a katana sword, or shoot you. I mean, they were ruthless. They were literally animals of what they did. And one scenario was the Bataan Death March.
Let's hear about that.
So the Bataan Death March, I cannot remember the camp that they started from, but it was a group of POW soldiers that were forced out of the camp that they were in, and the Japs literally had to march. What was it? It was like 200 miles to the city of Bataan, and half of the POWs died from dehydration, dysentery,
Yeah.
being shot, hunger. I mean, they literally made them walk nonstop all the way to the city of Bataan, about 100 to 200 miles, like long.
Not only that, what time of the year was this?
Brutal in the summer. Like this was in July.
Yeah.
This was in July of 1944, in the heat, in the dead of the summer, in Japan. No, in the Pacific Islands, and how it's hot in the Pacific and Japan. I mean, it gets brutal. The heat and the humidity.
Mm-hmm.
I think the POWs was about maybe 300 or so, and half of them died. I think it was about 50% of them died marching 200 miles long from dehydration and everything. And that's what I'm saying. Like the Japs were brutal when it came to that.
Also, too, like their torture methods too are insane. I know one where they would tie you down, where you couldn't move. They'd hang you upside down, and then, two of them. They would actually tie you down where you couldn't move at a slant, but they'd have this water hose above you, and it would just constantly just drip on your head. And it would drive you insane, and your head would get like a soft spot, because of that water would be dripping and dripping and dripping. Or if they were interrogating you and you need to get information, I know they would get a feather and they would tickle your feet. They basically tickle you to death.
Yeah.
Oh,
dude, I hate that because I'm very ticklish on my feet, and that would, dude, Oh man, that would suck. But another method too is that, you know, let's say they interrogate you and stuff that you don't get any information, they'll throw you in a very, very, very tight cell, pitch black, and just leave you in there for hours and hours, basically trying to get you to break.
Hmm.
Like no food, barely any food,
Yeah,
like no water, stuff like that. I mean, that's like what you saw in the movie Unbroken.
yeah,
I mean, that's exactly like how that was.
yeah. Also, too, like my grandfather talked about, because like not one of his buddies, but one of his guys he went through basic training with, he was talking about how one of the POWs came back and like his nails were all jacked up because they tried to get information out of him and he wasn't giving anything. So they got bamboo and they started shoving it in between his fingernails. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh gosh, dang it, you know?
Yeah, that's another method I actually forgot about. Oh, that's oh yeah, that nah, God, how uncomfortable that would have been.
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude, that would ah
Yeah, I think I'd rather have the feather.
yeah,
It'd be tickled, man. Yeah,
yeah,
straight.
yeah. As you know how Germany had death squads. Yeah, well, Japan had same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, they actually, I think they actually executed more POWs than what Germany did.
yeah. Now,
When
go ahead.
when I tell you that Japan committed twice as more war crimes as what Germany did, it is insane of how many war crimes that Japan did. Now, of course, Germany did the Holocaust. You know, they committed mass genocide of 6 million Jews and stuff. The Japs were brutal to not only the Chinese, they actually, I remember the number. They they executed thousands of civilians in China whenever they were actually fighting China in 1935. I can't remember the exact number of actual civilian stuff, but I think it was somewhere in about maybe the 40,000 range.
That's nuts, dude.
Yeah, yeah, and that was in 1935. You know, just think of like 10 years later at the end of the war. I mean, how many civilians or POWs stuff that they actually killed. And that's the thing is that we don't talk about that here in American history at all
No, we don't. Why is that? Why do you think that is?
because we focus more on the Nazi Germany side because everybody was so big when it came to Nazi Germany, how it was such a threat because of what they're, you know, what they were doing in Europe and stuff, what Hitler was doing with the Jews and in the concentration camps, because that's what they all focused on in school because of the concentration camps, the Jews, the Holocaust, the Kristallnacht, you know, all of that.
Yeah.
They don't talk about the Japanese side. They
Yeah, I'm
focus
saying
more
if you're gonna do them one, bro, do them all.
exactly, but the schools don't want to do that.
Hmm.
Which is I
Also, too,
always
a little conspiracy for you. Um, Sean Ryan was talking about this with Two Lamb. So the whole Asian countries, China, Japan, all that stuff up there, right? They
mm,
are really big on funding schools, right? Whoever funds the schools, pours the most money in, gets to dictate. Um, why am I drawing a blank here? I'm drawing a brain. I'm having a brain fart. Gets to dictate the curriculum. There we go.
mhm. And we don't do that here. We because all we want to teach is English and math and science. They're
Yeah,
trying to step away from the history,
they are. They're trying to make
which
people
is
forget. Dangerous. Dangerous.
I, this is why I'm so glad I'm out of school.
Yeah.
I've been out of school, but that's why you know I want to keep telling history and keep teaching history to people and stuff because it needs to be kept alive, especially when it comes to World War II,
Yeah.
because there's so much on both sides, and especially on the Japanese side of what they did more on than what Germany did, and France, and then Belgium, and Poland and stuff. There's just so much to the Pacific, but also so much to the European side too, and also what Stalin did. I mean, it's sad of what they're not teaching anymore. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, it's not just in high school, but it's also in colleges too.
Yeah. But like I was
That-
saying, like going back to that, the
Mhm.
colleges, right? Whoever pours in the most money of those colleges gets to dictate the curriculum.
Yeah,
You know,
but do you know what they don't teach over there?
what's that?
Atomic bombs.
What in Japan?
They don't like talking about it.
Well, of course not. Why would they?
Well, for that reason, of course, because it was deadly. But at the same time, though, I read something, a while back to where they still they still don't like talking about how they lost a war,
mm, it's
how
very
they
dishonorable to them. Yeah.
yeah, how they still feel disgraced about it and dishonored about it.
Hmm.
But I think they're actually starting to kind of ease in now of talking about it because they do. I think they do actually have a museum over in Hiroshima
Yeah.
about the atomic bomb.
Speaking of that, the freaking yeah, you and I were talking about that. I think about a month ago or something like that.
Yeah, the
About
last
the
podcast, I think.
yeah, about the guy who freaking the dude was having a bad week. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, the guy who got
Yeah.
hit by the first bomb, and then he's like, "Holy crap, I got to get out of here!" And he survived that. Then he went to the other place that got bombed, and then he got bombed again, and he lived a long life. But still, man, it's like God bless. I forgot his name. I gotta look it up. Look it up real quick while you keep
Uh,
talking.
do you know when he actually passed? Like, I don't know if we ever even talked about that
Look it up real quick. Um, hold on real
because I
quick.
I do remember that we did talk about it in the last podcast of what we did,
Yeah.
which was, I mean, survive both atomic bombs, dude.
Okay, I'm pulling it up right now. Okay. I'm totally gonna butcher this. Mo. Okay, I'm just gonna spell it out, guys. Tsutomu Yamaguchi. I'm just gonna call him T Yamaguchi. Yeah, so the Japanese man who survived both Hiroshima
Mhm.
and Nagasaki atomic bombs. So yeah, that's nuts, man. So
Eh,
he survived and returned to his hometown in Nagasaki and then survived the second atomic bomb. He is officially recognized as by the Japan government as a double atomic bomb survivor. When did he die? T. Yamagachi died on January 4th, 2010, at the age of 93.
Wow, he actually lived that long.
Mm-hmm. Let's
Wow.
see.
Honestly surprised, especially, after surviving both atomic bombs. But I mean, if that's the case, if he wasn't exposed to any of the radiation, I mean, that's a
Oh, dude, he had to get blasted with radiation, man. Had to
yeah.
have, you know.
But living that long though, to 93. I mean, that's a
I think that's like a freaking like anomaly, honestly.
that is insane, man.
Okay. So here's what it said. Okay. So Yamaguchi was in Hiroshima on the third month of his business trip. On the last day, he was walking to the shipyard to go back to where he came from. When he saw a sudden flash with a blinding white light, he said it was as if the sun fell from the sky. He was thrown into the air by the shockwave. His eardrums bursted. His face and arms were badly burned. He crawled into a air raid shelter to survive. When he came out, the entire city was on fire, people wandering like ghosts with the skin peeling off, and ash filled the sky, blocking the sun. So, returning home to Nagasaki, despite the injuries, he traveled back to Nagasaki the very next day to reunite with his wife and infant son. He went to Mitsubishi office to report what happened. Coworkers didn't believe his story of a single bomb destroying the entire city. Let's see. While explaining the Hiroshima explosion to his bosses, the second atomic bomb detonated over Nagasaki. He described it as another white flash, just like Hiroshima. He was shielded from the second blast because he was inside a reinforced building, which gave his life a second. This gave his saved his life the second time. His wife also survived because she had left home to buy burn ointment for him, which put her behind a concrete wall when the blast hit. Okay, so here's the health effects on him. Despite surviving both bombs, he suffered radiation sickness, lost his hair, developed chronic pain and weakness. Later in life, he battled stomach cancer. He still lived to 93, which is remarkable and a miracle given the radiation he had endured. Later life and activism. Yamaguchi spent his later years speaking out against nuclear weapons. Some notable points: in 1957, he was officially recognized as a. I'm not even gonna say it. I don't even know. It's a Japanese, guys. I'm sorry. I'm not fluent in that. In 2009, he became the only person ever to officially recognized as a survivor in both bombs. He testified at the United Nations calling for nuclear disarmament. He said the world should know the atomic bomb is the most cruel weapon ever invented. And then death, he died in January 2010 from stomach cancer at the age of 93. Yep, that's it, man. Pretty good, interesting stuff. Yeah.
That's that's just insane, dude. Because I know we didn't really dive deep into that story, in the last podcast. But
Mm,
I mean, now with that, it's crazy to see all these stories, especially when it comes to the atomic bombs, because you
yeah.
saw how much damage both bombs created, and I've seen aftermath pictures of both cities, after the bombs hit, and it's just insane how much destruction actually was caused. But and how he was talking about, in the United Nations, how he's trying to get everybody to stop making atomic bombs and stuff. Unfortunately, that didn't stop us because we were still in an arms race in the Cold War with Russia for 40 years. Unfortunately, basically saying, I have more atomic bombs than you. No, I do. A back and forth thing, especially putting atomic bombs in Cuba.
Yeah. Oh,
And
get this, man. As you're going with that, I was actually looking up too on on different people, like different like little like side stories on people who survived the atomic blast. Here's an interesting one. The boy saved by a single tree in Nagasaki. So the schoolboy was outdoors in Nagasaki when the second bomb detonated. He dove behind a single semper tree in the schoolyard. The tree, even though mostly stripped bare, absorbed much of the thermal flash and shrapnel. The boy survived with burns, but lived a long life. And the same tree regrew after the blast and still stands today. It's called the survivor tree, a symbol of resilience. That's really interesting.
dang, dude, the single tree.
Yeah, man.
Dang.
And what's crazy though is I was actually I kind of went down this rabbit hole when it came to like nuclear bombs and stuff like that because with the whole Russia thing and then with Iran and all that.
Yeah.
So This is nuts. So this is literally like called like the rule of thumb, right? So I looked it up, and Manchester is probably the most safest spot from Nashville, right? That's really good. It's like 100 and some miles away from Nashville. So here's the rule of thumb. Literally, they said that if there is a mushroom cloud right in a flash, you're supposed to get down as fast as you can, as low as you can to the ground because of the freaking blast, right? Then after that happens, you get up after everything's clear and you see the cloud, the mushroom cloud. You're supposed to get your thumb and put it in front of your face towards the mushroom cloud. If the mushroom cloud is bigger than your thumb, you're basically screwed, right? Because because the fallout and all that, right? But if it's not, you're good to go. You're far enough away from the fallout and all that. If the wind doesn't carry it your way. But as far as that, if you are in that certain proximity of it, you have to get to a concrete shelter as fast as possible. And then when you get there, you have to take all your clothes off, put them in a garbage bag, and take a shower. But you got to take a cold shower because if you take a hot shower, it opens up your pores and that fallout gets in your skin, and that's how you'll get radiation poisoning and die, right? So you're supposed to, after you get in the shower and get in cold water, and then you lightly, like you basically just lightly, you don't scrub, you just lightly just wipe your skin off. You know what I mean? With soap and cold water, and you do that, and then yeah, you keep your mouth closed and your eyes shut while you do that, and then after that's done, you pat dry, right? You don't want to rub in, you pat dry, then you put on fresh clothes and you just hunker down for about a week, man, is what it is. And then you just eat canned foods only and bottled waters. That's it, man, because everything else is contaminated. Food in the refrigerator, everything, dude. So yeah, yeah. It was pretty interesting.
I've I've studied on nuclear bombs and fallout and Cold War. What you just described, though, I haven't even looked into that.
Yeah, because just with the background, I love survival stuff. I love bushcraft. I love prepping and all that. But I kind of went down like that little rabbit hole as an average American citizen. What could I do to if something like that happens? Like, okay, what like minimal information I could have to kind of have a chance at least. And that's what I
Mm.
kind of went down for a little bit. But
That's really good information, though. I mean, for all of you listening out there and stuff, just take note of that. If something like that, just something ever like that happens, which I pray to God that nothing ever does with that. Um, so I pray that in our lifetime it doesn't happen. But like for our grandkids and kids down the line and stuff, if situation those that happen, I mean, that's a good little tidbit right there.
yeah. Oh, get this too. Since you and I work at a car factory, so the factory workers who thought the world ended, and that's number 7 in Nagasaki. The group of Mitsubishi factory workers and operators in Nagasaki were inside the massive steel frame building. When the bomb hit, the blast wave hit the building so hard it rang like a giant bell. The noise was deafening. Every window shattered simultaneously. The dust filled the air like an eclipse. Some workers said they thought the world had been ripped open. Many survived only because the building's steel frame absorbed much of the blast. Yeah.
It's funny and for all you listening is uh before Mitsubishi became a car company, they made the bomber planes for Japan in World War II.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. So you look at the Japanese World War II planes.
Yeah.
What was it the Mitsubishi B-29s? I believe it was what it was. Um, Look them up. They were good bomber planes too, and they actually used some of those on Pearl Harbor as well. So they had the Japanese Zero planes, the fighter planes. The white one, and you had the green ones. I think the green ones were just regular Japanese fighters. The white ones were the Zeros, but then you had the Mitsubishi bombers. And so they built the bomber planes in World War II before they became one of the big car companies today.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good to know, man.
Yeah,
And then
definitely.
Yeah, go ahead.
So definitely look it up because you'll be shocked about that.
Check that out, man.
Yeah.
And then everybody knows this one, the woman's shadow that was burned into stone.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that. This is pretty good. The chilling iconic image. The woman was sitting on the steps of the building when the bomb hit. The thermal flash was so bright, it was hotter than 10,000 suns that hit and bleached the stone around her and around her body. The part where she sat blocked the light. All the remains of her shadow forever burned into the concrete. She was vaporized instantly. She didn't feel a thing. Well, that's a good thing, but still, it's like, gosh, damn, 10,000
Yes.
suns. That was back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. How many nuclear warheads does U.S. have?
At the top of my head, uh, I cannot think of the exact number, but during the Cold War, during the 60s, I believe we had somewhere between 560,000. Um,
Oh, I found it right here, actually.
have you?
So it's pretty interesting. The U.S. nuclear warhead numbers. The U.S. stockpile is estimated at 3,700 warheads that are maintained for delivery by missile or aircraft. Of those, around the 1,700 warheads are deployed ready on missile submarines or bombers. The rest, roughly 1,900, are in reserve storage and held as for backup. Beyond the active stockpile, there are also retired warheads awaiting dismantle, roughly 1,400 of them. So that brings a total of the U.S. warhead inventory in the reserve, active reserve, and retired to 5,000 to 5,200 warheads. Yeah, pretty
I was way
interesting.
off.
I think you could have. I think you could have been like globally because you got Russia, you got all these other
Yeah.
countries too. That got them.
I couldn't remember if it was in the thousands or 100,000s. It was. I know in the Cold War, so we had about what, maybe 2,000 during the Cold War, 3,000, and
Mhm.
Russia had a little bit less than what we did, but it
Yeah,
was still basically like kind of like a cat and mouse game. Basically,
yeah,
I'm bigger than you. No, I'm bigger than you. You know, just back and forth.
yeah. Let's see who's got the biggest wiener, basically.
Yeah, when Russia put their nukes in Cuba, that was when everything was
Uh-oh.
spiking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But basically, man, if that happens, it's over. So, um, but yeah, who knows? Putin might be crazy enough to do it, but so is Trump. But who knows, man? So
Let's hope
hopefully
not.
they're on good terms. But
Yeah,
yeah.
and North Korea.
Oh, Kim Jong Wang, Kim Jong Un. There's a
I always
dang
think of
song. There's a song by that my buddy Sagino sent me and my buddy OMB. It's called King Jang Wam. I got a mushroom cloud for you. It's I gotta send it to you. It's pretty funny, dude.
the movie I always think of is
Team America? No, I'm just
no,
joking.
well, that's hilarious too, but uh the interview with Seth Rogen and James
Oh
McAvoy.
yes,
where James Franco is like best friends with Kim Jong Un now and stuff. Basically trying to get this interview, but they have to assassinate Kim Jong. And then Kim
Oh,
Jong was
dude.
like all heartbroken and
Yeah.
stuff. It was,
Yeah. Oh, dude. Here's a song. I'm gonna play it real quick.
oh
All
Lord.
right, guys. Here we go. Oh, here we go. Yeah. I'll send that to you. But yeah, dude. Yeah, my buddy Sagino sent that to me. He's Asian, by the way, so it's cool.
Great clarification.
Yeah. Yeah. But it was funny, man. Whenever him and I work together, like that's the crap he'd do. He's like, "Hey, easy, Drew. I got a mushroom cloud for you." Like stupid stuff, dude. But anyways, yeah. So yeah, man, war's bad, but just is what it is, man. It's just the nature of the beast, bro. But
Yeah.
anyways, yeah. Other than that, some good, interesting stuff, dude. I'm kind of glad we went on that little tangent because we kind of fed off each other back and forth. But
hmm
yeah, other than that, man, yeah, we're coming up on the timage, brother. But what conclusion and what things that you want to end with on this conversation, man? When it comes to this,
Yeah.
what we just talked.
If any of y'all want to learn more about the atomic bombs, about obviously what happened in yesterday's anniversary event, and just more about World War II in general, I really recommend it. Go on Google, look up different books. There's so many good books about Pearl Harbor, about the Pacific Theater, about um, just everything about the Nazi regime. Learn more about it, get your knowledge going, especially the atomic warfare. There is so much that you will learn in documentaries. I recommend it for sure.
Yeah,
Hands down.
sounds good, man. Where can people find you at? And you get a hold of you.
Yeah. So for those who don't know or who haven't followed me yet, you can find me on Instagram under the name right here, Brice Witherow on Instagram and on Facebook. So hit me up, follow me. If you got any questions about history, got any questions about war, I'm your guy. Hit me up. We'll talk.
Sounds good, brother. Sounds good, man. Always good to have you back. Always good to have you back on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll dive into some more stuff and get you back on the podcast for sure. Other than that, guys, these guys got any information? You guys got any questions for Brice? Hit him up. I'll have everything in the show notes as usual. Yeah, also too, also good to prepare, guys. Just to kind of learn just a little bit of information on certain aspects of life when it comes to being prepared. Like if atomic bomb does hit, what are the first steps you should do? I mean, that kind of gets you going. Yeah, just luck favors the prepared. That's all I'm saying. But other than that, guys, you guys got any questions? You guys got any stories? You guys got any information you guys want to share? Go ahead and shoot me an email, cryptidwarfare@gmail.com. That's cryptidwarfare@gmail.com. And if you guys want to listen to some other good podcasts, hit my buddy AG. His podcast is the Trebles podcast show. He recently changed it from the Paranoid Radio podcast to Trebles podcast show, or my buddy Kevin, Where the Weird Ones Are, or Doc Prometheus podcast, or Midwest Mythos, David Doesn't Know, Cryptid Huntress, freaking all kinds, guys. I got all kinds of podcast buddies out there, and I will have them in the show notes. So that's all I got to say about that. But anyways, yeah, you guys got any prayer requests or anything like that? Shoot me an email. You guys know where to find me. That's all I got, guys. It was a good little quick, fun episode today. So yeah, that's all I'm got to say. So hope you guys are good, and Anyways, yeah, I'm probably gonna get flagged on that one, but whatever. Anyways, love you guys. Be good, be safe, and yeah, stay frosty, stay dangerous. Peace.